This is the Season Long Podcast in support of the YouTube channel Season Long Baller, and welcome to Season Long Podcast number 40. As here on the Season Long Podcast, we talk about the things that have happened in our league over the past week and things that are happening just in general outside of our games, which of course focus on the Washington Wizards and our player build, Jaymont Summerz. So taking a look at what happened last week, just 2 games for the Wizards, and there is an explanation for that, of course, and that is the in-season tournament that is being played by the actual NBA. Now, you can play the in-season tournament on NBA 2K24. However, there's a setting for that, and when we set up the season at the beginning on NBA 2K24, we missed that setting. So our Wizards are not playing the in-season tournament. So they have 2 games that they would be playing if they weren't playing the tournament, of course. And those 2 games took place last Monday and Tuesday against the Nets and, of course, the Pacers, who we seem to be playing all the time now, especially for a team that is not in the same division as the Wizards. So we'll talk about the Pacers a little bit more later on. However, the games that you see, the days that you see that the Wizards did not play, that would have been the actual in-season tournament. So that is why the Wizards were not playing there. But next week, you see the Wizards will be back in full effect. 4 games next week. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. We will talk about the action from this week, and against that's the Nets and the Pacers. So the first game was against the Nets, and remember, our first meeting with the Nets was our first ever live stream game, and that was where Jaymont Summerz had his first triple-double. That was back on November 12th, I believe that was, and the Wizards defeated the Nets there, and they defeated the Nets here 74-60, and part of that, really a big reason for it, is that the Wizards shot 61% from the field, while the Nets were only shooting 43% from the field. And again, 43% is not horrible, but it's bad when your opponent is shooting 61%. Jaymont Summerz had a very good game, going 12 out of 19 from the field with 10 assists, going double-double with 29 points, and led the team in rebounds as well. And take note that Daniel Gafford is still not back yet. So the Wizards are still playing with this lineup that is Summerz and DeLon Wright at the guards, along with Avdija and Kuzma at the forwards, and Mike Muscala starting in the middle. And that particular lineup has accounted itself very well. Believe it or not, the Wizards have played well, have not lost but 1 game, and that was the second of a home series, or back-to-back in Orlando against the Magic. And the Wizards won the first one, lost the second one, and that's really been the only loss since Daniel Gafford went out on November 15th in a blowout loss to the Mavericks. So the Wizards have been holding the fort down while Gafford is out. Now, the Nets were led by Lonnie Walker IV, who scored 17 points. And speaking of injuries, Mikal Bridges had only 2 points, and you'll notice he only played 2 minutes as he was injured, obviously, very early in the game, and that changed the complexion for the Nets. Now, speaking of injuries, I didn't mention it as I was talking about Gafford. The Wizards also lost DeLon Wright in this game. So he was out. He was replaced by Poole. He was injured later in the game. And while we're just going to stay on this injury theme, this game was also the game that Jaymont Summerz returned after the injury on Friday or a few weeks ago, Friday the 1st. So on December 1st, Summerz was injured late in the loss to the Orlando Magic. We were wondering if he was going to return. Initially, it was an ankle injury listed as day-to-day. And on Monday the 4th, he was able to play. Now, I'm thinking the reason he was able to play was because they had the 2 days off between the game against the Magic and the game against the Nets. Otherwise, I think Summerz would have missed at least 1 game. But as it stands, Gafford was out for a while. Summerz ended up not missing any time with the ankle injury. And we will see with Wright. We'll talk about that in a moment. And Walker, again, with Bridges out, Lonnie Walker IV led the Nets in scoring with 17. And now, talking about those injuries, there you see Bridges, who was injured very early in the game, and he had right knee tendonitis, so he'll be out 2 to 4 weeks. And something else, again, just staying on this injury theme, Cam Thomas played well against us in the first meeting, but in this meeting, Thomas was injured, strained left hip, as you see, for 1 to 2 weeks. So he did not make an appearance at all in this game. So losing Bridges, losing Thomas, you're losing a little bit of scoring for the Nets. Now, for the Pacers, the second meeting of the season for the Wizards against the Pacers, keep in mind, on opening night, back on October 18th, the Wizards fell to the Pacers. And so here, the second meeting between the two, the Wizards got some measure of revenge, a 73-65 victory, as the Wizards again continued their hot shooting 58% from the field. And usually when you can shoot over 50%, you figure you have a good chance of winning. But the Pacers shooting 51%, it's much more difficult to do that when your opponents are shooting nearly 60%. And the Wizards got a 73-65 victory, led by Jaymont Summerz, who again had a great game, going 6 out of 8 from deep, 13 out of 20 from the field for 35 points. And that was a big deal in the game. However, Tyrese Halliburton, who is now becoming a thorn in my side, as I have horrible games now, or I have a horrible time trying to stop Halliburton. And you see, I didn't succeed here. Halliburton, 4 out of 8 from deep, 12 out of 21 from the field for 29 points. So he almost matched Summerz point for point in this game. But fortunately, the Wizards did shoot a higher percentage as a team, and they get away with the 73-65 victory over the Pacers. The Wizards are averaging the most points in the league per game at 71, and you see the Wizards are 16-5 there. And looking at the field goal percentage, the Wizards rank second, shooting at 51.5% per game, and that is only trailing the Pelicans, the New Orleans Pelicans, who we will be playing next week, as they are shooting 1 percentage point higher at 52.5%. So they are the best shooting team in the league right now. And of course, you know that Zion Williamson has a lot to do with that. Now, the Wizards are also allowing the most points in the league at 64.1 points allowed. The Suns are second in that category. And of course, Jaymont Summerz is high in that percentage of giving up points. We're number 1 in that category, but we're also number 1 in usage rate at 39.8%. Now, I believe 40% is just historically epic high. So with Summerz at 39.8, and I know Whitehead there's at 76.5, but that's kind of a misnomer, because obviously Whitehead is not playing as much, and that is he's a member of the Nets. So obviously that isn't really among players who are playing a lot. So Summerz with a 39.8 usage rate, that is very high, and we will see if Summerz is able to maintain that for the entirety of the season. Now, estimated wins added, Summerz again is leading the league over on Joker. Summerz at 6.7, again a very good mark, and Joker, who you know is a dominant force in his own right, is, and probably the best player in the NBA right now, is his EWA is 4.3 wins. So you know that is a really good number for Jaymont Summerz. And right now, Summerz is leading the league in double-doubles with 4, and him and Joker are the only players right now with triple-doubles. And I mentioned earlier, Summerz had his against the Nets in our live stream. Joker has one as well. Those are the only two, and we play 6-minute quarters, so getting a triple-double is not that easy. And as you can see on this list, double-doubles are even a challenge somewhat, but Summerz leads the league in double-doubles, and Joker, Anthony Davis, and Antetokounmpo all have 3, and they are all tied for second behind Summerz in double-doubles this season. And of course, I've already mentioned those triple-doubles. It's just Summerz and Joker. Summerz is also leading the league in minutes played at 19.7 minutes a game. Remember, 6-minute quarters. It will be very interesting again as we go throughout the season if this will wear Jaymont Summerz down. So that is something worth looking at. Right now, you see here with the fatigue, he is feeling sluggish. Your players of the week, we have not talked about it that often, but as you can see, Summerz has been racking up the awards. He's leading the league in scoring. He is up in the top 5 in assists. So Summerz has stacked up 6 weekly awards already, and only Joker in the Western Conference, he's accumulated 3 himself, but Summerz has 6 in the East, and that is really, really noteworthy. So taking a look, well, actually, before we take a look at next week, let's take a look at our Jaymont Summerz play of the week. For Bridges, and we'll see how he feels. Oh, Summerz with the interception on the inbounds. Lob to Kuzma, and he tips it in. I didn't know. I was hoping that lob would go a little closer to the rim in terms that Kuzma could dunk it, but Kuzma was able to tip it, and the Wizards are able to take advantage of that off the steal from Summerz. All right, so as I mentioned, we have got a full slate of games next week, starting with the 76ers later on today. Then we will face the Pelicans on Wednesday. The Pacers, again, are our favorite team to play, apparently. And obviously, I don't want to play Tyrese Halliburton right now, but we will be on Friday. And then next Sunday, we get another look at a Western Conference team as we will take on the Phoenix Suns and a reunion with Bradley Beal. That's right. Bradley Beal was, of course, on the Wizards last season and helped the Wizards, or you could say kind of formed the Wizards, part of the Wizards' big three with Jaymont Summerz and Kristaps Porzingis. So another reunion of sorts with a former Wizard player. So we will be playing against Bradley Beal. And of course, in our simulation, Bradley Beal has not had any back problems. So the big three of the Suns, as we're speaking of big threes, Kevin Durant and Dante Booker and Bradley Beal will all be playing in that game, provided there are no injuries before we get up to that point. But right now, Bradley Beal is healthy and helping that Suns team. And then, although I don't have it here, we will be playing on next Monday as well. So we've got a full slate next week, and we will be playing 5 games in the next week, starting with the Sixers later on today. Now, that's going to do it for yours truly, Season Long Baller. Thank you for watching and listening to the Season Long Podcast number 40. We hope to see you later against the 76ers. Have a great rest of your day. Season's greetings to you and yours. That's it for Season Long Baller. Peace.